The biggest upgrade in the history of Ethereum is about to go down. It's called the merge, and most of us ETH holders are super excited about it. But unfortunately, we cannot just sit back, relax, and enjoy the whole thing, because some troublemakers are planning to fork Ethereum into two separate blockchains. So we gotta be ready for that, and that's why I spent the past few days researching this whole civil war scenario. So first and foremost, there is finally a date for the merge. It is estimated to happen around September 15th, and I am so excited for it. I've been waiting for this since 2017, and Ethereum is finally going to graduate from proof of work to proof of stake. But there is one group of people who are not happy about it, and that'd be the miners. Because when Ethereum changes to proof of stake, all their fancy mining equipment will no longer be needed. And this isn't some small industry that's being affected. Miners were able to generate $620 million worth of revenue back in July. So they got a good thing going, and it's no surprise that they don't want to lose it. That's why there are some serious efforts to fork Ethereum when the upgrade happens, so that miners can keep a proof of work version of Ethereum that they can continue to mine. They've actually made substantial progress already, and there's even some ticker symbols for their future coin, like ETHPOW, ETHW, or ETH1. I mean, I get it, alright? But I still think this is a stupid idea, because they're not only forking the code base of Ethereum like most sensible projects do, they plan on forking the state of Ethereum too. That means once this fork happens, you'll have two copies of everything. Like if you own one CryptoPunk, you'll own one on the proof of stake chain, and one on the miners chain too. Also, all the smart contracts currently deployed on Ethereum will exist on both chains as well. So Uniswap, Aave, Compound will still be accessible on the miners chain. But as you can imagine, their approach is going to cause a ton of problems. Just think about it. Some assets will only have value on one chain, like stablecoins or wrapped Bitcoin. Those will only be redeemable for USD or BTC on one of the chains. You can't just clone all the tokens and expect them to have value unless you somehow increase the collateral behind them too. And what about the 13 million ETH locked in the smart contract for Ethereum's upgrade? That's supposed to be unlocked after the merge happens, so that people can access their ETH once again. But if the merge doesn't happen on the miners chain, then are those ETH going to be locked forever? I'm not sure what their plans are, but this is definitely an elephant in the room that they're gonna have to address. Also, anytime a fork happens, there is the possibility of replay attacks. That's when someone takes your transaction on one of the two networks and then posts it or replays it on the second network. So definitely be careful and don't just go crazy on either network once the fork happens. But an even bigger issue is that people will rush to drain all the liquidity pools on the miners network. Because remember, Uniswap, Curve, and all other DEXs will be on both networks and their liquidity pools will be intact. So what some people could do is get a lot of stablecoins pre-fork, and once the fork happens, they'll have two copies of their stablecoins. But on the miners chain, those stablecoins are worthless, so they can swap a bunch of them for the new ETH proof of work coins, which presumably have some value even if it's low. So you're swapping something that's worthless for something that has worth, and then you can dump your proof of work coins on some exchange for easy profit. This is actually a brilliant strategy, but the problem is that everyone will rush to do this as soon as the fork happens. So there's going to be a ton of chaos and pandemonium, and that's why I'm not going to touch it until the dust settles. But I gotta be fair and point out that they do have plans to address these issues. But before we get there, there's an up-and-coming exchange you gotta check out. There are video sponsors Bitget, and they've been growing a ton even during this bear market. Check this out, they just partnered with Juventus Football Club to be their sleeve partner. And they also made it to the top 5 derivatives exchanges on CoinGecko. So you can go there to trade spot and futures, of course. But they also got trading bots, staking products, and so much more. One thing you might like is that they do not require KYC, and US citizens can use them too. So if you're interested, use my link below to get a bonus when you sign up, and all the details you need are on that page. Alright, back to the miners fork, and let's take a look at their solutions to their problems. So first, they created a new client software that all the nodes on their network will run. Next, they changed the chain ID to prevent those replay attacks I mentioned earlier. They also adjusted the starting mining difficulty so that miners can actually solve blocks when the new network comes to life. And finally, they froze some of the smart contracts associated with DEXs and liquidity pools to prevent that mad rush to drain them post-fork. So things aren't completely hopeless for them. But the whole thing still reeks of greed and opportunism. Like, did you know they're going to redirect a part of every transaction fee to a wallet that's controlled by the miners? That's so freaking greedy, and it pisses me off. Another proof of greed is them deciding to do this fork instead of just mining Ethereum Classic. Because ETC uses the same mining algorithm as ETH, so it'd be an easy switch for them. But their excuse is that Ethereum Classic can't handle their mining power, so that's why they're creating their own chain. That's a terrible excuse in my mind, and it just makes their bad intentions more evident. Now, if we look at who is behind this fork, we see some of the usual villains involved. First, you got Chandler Guo, a former crypto miner turned investor with deep ties to the Chinese mining community. He said that his miner friends were displeased with Ethereum's upgrade, so he wanted to help them out by forking ETH. Now, if he was just some rando, no one would care. But his claim to fame is that he helped create the Ethereum Classic fork back in the day. So when he said he's going to fork Ethereum again, people paid attention. And then there's Justin Sun. Like, why am I not surprised that he's involved? He is the ultimate opportunist after all. So when the fork was announced, Justin immediately got his Poloniex exchange to list ETHW before any other exchange. He also vowed to donate a bunch of his forked ETH to the proof of work devs to build out an ecosystem there. Like I said, I'm not surprised at all, and Justin's Tron network definitely stands to benefit when Ethereum is weaker. But one thing I can't deny is that these guys have influence, and they've already used it to get some exchanges on board. Like, besides Poloniex, some smaller exchanges like Gate.io and MEXC have already listed the forked ETH coin. OKX and Huobi also said they'll add it if it passes their listing requirements. So even though I don't like this forking plan at all, it does look like they have some real traction going on. Fortunately, I don't think they'll be successful long term because many large entities have said that they won't support the miners chain. Like Tether and Circle said that they'll only recognize their stablecoins on the new proof of stake chain. So all those billions of USDT and USDC will be worth zero on the miners chain. And Oracle providers like Chainlink said that they'll only support the new proof of stake chain, which means DeFi will be largely dysfunctional on the miners chain. But I think the biggest blow to the miners chain is that the two largest mining pools, Ethermine and F2 Pool, said that they'll sunset their Ethereum mining pools after the merge. So any miner that wants to switch to the forked chain will have to go find some other pool operator to go with. Overall, it looks like there's overwhelming consensus among the power players as to which chain they'll recognize. And that makes me happy, because as an ETH holder, I want everyone to be on the same page so that we can have a smooth upgrade. So if any big entity were to pull shenanigans by supporting this fork, I would boycott them in a heartbeat. Personally, I'm not going to touch this fork chain at all, even if their coin does have some value. And I recommend you to avoid them too. I mean, yes, there are some advanced strategies you could do to make money there, like that liquidity pool draining stuff, but given the risks, I don't think it's worth the hassle. Also, it may not even get you that much money, seeing as how the price of ETHW has already dropped 64% since hitting exchanges. So let's just sit back, relax, and watch history happen with the merge, and just ignore this fork and let it fade away to zero. By the way, I fully expect this merge event to be a bullish catalyst for ETH, and I'm predicting that it'll take ETH over $10,000 over the next 2 years. So if you want to find out why, then watch this video where I lay out my strongest bull case for Ethereum.